Jared here from the Heel to the Face podcast. It is WrestleMania Sunday, WrestleMania Night 1 in the books. Last night, as you can see, the world famous Las Vegas Strip right behind me as we are at the Rio Hotel right off the Strip on this Sunday morning, maybe even already Sunday afternoon on the East Coast. Getting quick letter grades of all the matches. I know some internet wrestling community members can be a little bit harsh when it comes to WrestleMania. We'll start with the opening match though last night. I would give it probably a B. I mean, it definitely had the moment at the end, and essentially the whole match was kind of created for the iShow speed moment. The faces won while it was on the ESPN platform. All was good when it comes to that. The second match of the night, Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu in the unsanctioned match. I thought that was a pretty decent match as well. I would probably give that a B grade. I'm not as harsh as some of these other ones, but I think overall, a pretty good match between those two. I think where the night really suffered were all the women's matches, right? The women's tag team match, not the greatest, but the Paige moment. I think that's a WrestleMania moment in itself. I'm gonna give the match probably like a C, but the moment itself is really what that's all about. Paige is back in the WWE, so it's weird to see, because the Bella twins were back in the WWE, and that was kind of the big return. But now we have Bria Bella and Paige as the new Women's Tag Team Championship. Hopefully, it's not similar to what we saw when Becky Lynch returned last year at WrestleMania, becoming tag champs at WrestleMania, and then turning on her partner on Monday Night Raw. So we'll see if that happens this upcoming Monday on Raw. But the other women's matches, not the greatest. Good entrances for everybody. I will say that much. WrestleMania this year seemed like they made sure to give everybody a pretty decent entrance. Everybody had something kind of going on with their entrance, from like Drew McIntyre to AJ Lee. I'll say that a million times. AJ Lee coming out with all those girls. Becky Lynch coming out with the band The Wonder Years last night. I think that was probably the better of all the women's matches. I think the Liv Morgan Stephanie Vaquer match, the problem there, and giving it like a C, is while it kind of ended very anticlimactically. Didn't really feel like that was going to be the pinfall there. Very similar to, the Undertaker, Brock Lesnar, but don't want to really put Stephanie Vaquer and Liv Morgan in that vein, but just very much the crowd wasn't necessarily expecting that. I think the match of the night had to be Seth Rollins and Gunther. Great match, I thought. The Braun Breaker involvement, thought that was very interesting. But overall, I thought they put on a great show. Both had really cool entrances. I know Gunther's was very basic, but still cool in its own. I'd give that probably, a B plus to an A for the night. And then the main event, I thought really delivered. I am kind of curious about the ending there, as we kind of all learned, because the internet wrestling community knows exactly what's going to happen. Well, if you know exactly what's going to happen, then you're probably pretty surprised to find out that it doesn't look like it's going to be Randy Orton and Pat McAfee in a tag match at Backlash. It still can maybe happen, but last night Randy Orton obviously turning on Pat McAfee in the main event. So we will see if that ends up happening. And oh, by the way, Pat McAfee technically is not supposed to be in the world of professional wrestling anymore, because Randy Orton did indeed lose his match. And I will say, when it comes to John Cena and his hosting abilities, one of the better hosts for WrestleMania in its history for sure, because, well, he actually made like more than one appearance on the night, kind of chit-chatted a little bit. I mean, some of these hosts literally just come out, say, welcome to WrestleMania, then you never see them ever again, maybe not even on night 2. So good on John Cena for coming out twice in the night. And I will say, when it comes to the attendance, we all know that WWE loves to inflate that number, so most likely the 50,000 they announced is probably less than that. But either way, whether it's 50,000, whether you believe it or not, I mean, it's kind of a bad number. I mean, realistically, whether it's the truth or not the truth, and we know obviously WWE wants to make themselves look as good as possible. So 50,000 for a night 1 of WrestleMania, not counting 2,000, which was obviously COVID mania, and not counting 2021, which was attendance restricted in Tampa. It was the lowest single night of a WrestleMania going back to WrestleMania 22 in Chicago Allstate Arena. So, in a stadium setting, it was the lowest single night of a WrestleMania, not counting the attendance restricted one in 2021. I hate that COVID stuff because it obviously skews all the numbers, but without that, this would be the lowest attended stadium WrestleMania period per night. So crazy to think that, they're really excited about 50,000 people last night at Allegiant Stadium, when really any other time they've been in a stadium, even baseball stadiums, like when they were here for SummerSlam 2021, coming off of COVID, the first big show, and where they only used half of the stadium. They even touted more than 51,000 for that event. So it's crazy to think, like I said, WrestleMania 8 at the Hoosier Dome had around the 50,000 mark, if you will. WrestleMania 19 at Safeco Field, the baseball stadium, over the 50,000 mark. So crazy to think, especially on these two-night WrestleManias, a very, very low number. So total, they're probably going to get maybe just over 100,000 over the 2 nights. But as you know, I am not 2 people, I am 1 person, so I'm going to be counted more than once, right, in this number. So how many actual people over the 2 nights are probably attending WrestleMania? I would guess different in crowd, maybe more like 60,000 total people, even under WWE's number of a unique amount of people that are going into Allegiant Stadium. But WrestleMania Sunday, that's even before 2 nights, is tonight, right? Because WrestleMania was always used to be a Sunday. Saturday was added as part of the 2-night deal, so tonight is the big main events. Tonight is Roman Reigns, the Royal Rumble winner, versus CM Punk for the championship from Las Vegas, Nevada. Night 4 in the last 2 years of WrestleMania in Allegiant Stadium. Coming up tonight here from Las Vegas, Nevada. Make sure you're following the Heel to the Face podcast on our social media channels like Twitter and Instagram.